When then did Terence Malick come into your life? Because he's a man you've often spoken of as being an important mentor as well.
Yeah, he was, yeah. We met over in L.A. in 1971. He was casting a film, and this is so showbiz. I had gone to this audition for this haberdashery. I'd gone there to model a pair of trousers for this commercial, and I didn't get the job, but on the way out, I was stopped by this lady who was casting this movie being directed by Terence Malick. Oh, she says, "You look familiar. I think you're right for this part. Would you do an audition?" The director's not here. He's off looking at locations, and he mentions you and doesn't think you're right. You're too old, but I think you are right, and I want to make a little video of you doing some scenes and see if I can change his mind. Will you do it? I will, I said. And so I studied these few scenes, and as I'm studying it, I thought, this character seems familiar. Would this be based on Charlie Starkweather, the infamous serial killer in America in 1959? And she said, yes, it's him. I said, I knew about that guy, okay. And so I did this little audition, and I forgot about it, and a few weeks later I get this call from Terence Malick. And says, I didn't think you were right for the part, Martin, but maybe y'all should come in. We could talk about it, That's right. He's so lovely. And so I went in to meet this guy, and he was the shyest human being I've ever met. Still hopelessly shy. And so I began to work with this little redheaded girl from Texas. And the two of us would do these little scenes together, and he would film them. In those days, they had video cameras, and they were on tripods. You couldn't move them. He could only get the frame right here. So you had to enact the scenes kind of like this, There was no move. It was all interior, And he ended up giving me the part. And then I finally got the script. The script was called Badlands. And I read it, and I told him, I said, I've never done this in my life before, but this is such a good script, but I'm going to spoil it because I'm too old. The character you're asking is 19, and I'm already 31. He said, I know, but I'm thinking I'll make him a bit older. Will you do it? And I said, I will. And so I did. And I just heard it's going to run after this.
Yeah,
I want to stay and see it. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But we became very dear friends. And then he went overseas. He went through a terrible time, through a divorce. He'd made another movie while I was in the Philippines. He did a film called Days of Heaven, another brilliant work. And then he disappeared, and his marriage fell apart, and he disappeared. And I didn't see him for years. And I was in Paris doing a little film in 1981, and I'm walking down the Rue Jacob one day. Why would I remember that? And because I see this guy coming to me, I said, is it yourself? And it was Terry, and he'd become this, this expatriate. And Martin, is that you? How you doing? I said, well, I'm here in Paris doing this little. Well, let's go and have some supper. And I did. And he's so hopelessly shy that one day we were walking down the street together, and someone recognized me and wanted an autograph. He kept walking. I lost him. Totally. He disappeared.
Have you seen, by the way, the most recent Terence?
Yes, I did. I just saw it a few weeks ago. It's powerful, powerful stuff.
A poet of the screen, I think, is how you have described him in the past.
He's a screen poet. That's how you describe Terence Malick, I think. But for me, he became something deeply important to me because at that time, in '81, I was in Paris doing this thing, and I was going through a very difficult period. And I had left the church, and I'd left all sense of myself, and I was drinking heavily and mucking about and very confused. I'd come out of Apocalypse Now. Who could blame me? I mean, what would you expect out of that madness, And I was trying to adjust to being a lunatic, and I wasn't doing very well at it. And so he began to. He saw something. He saw me struggling, and he began to become like a spiritual advisor, for lack of another. So you're a deeply spiritual guy, He was raised Episcopal, and he began to give me literature. Say, well, Martin, you ought to try and read this. He was a brilliant scholar. He was a Rhodes Scholar, and he taught at MIT, and he for a while before he became a director, and he speaks like 3 or 4 languages, and including Latin of all things. And He's just an extraordinary, brilliant man. And he taught me Paris on foot and on the subway with the correspondance and all this stuff. And I couldn't even remember why I was in Paris. Every now and then I'd go to work on this film, which had less and less importance, but this relationship began to become so important. The final text he gave me to read that he thought would help me was the Brothers Karamazov. And I couldn't put it down. And a week later, I finished it, and I just felt this draw towards getting right, with myself, and I came back to Catholicism.